Okay, so what we're going to do in this exercise is a patching, how to do patching with Morpheus using Ansible. So the idea is I want Morpheus to deploy servers. So I'm a user who wants to do self-service. Morpheus will deploy the servers with the application stack or with the services I want them to be installed on the machine. After the machine is installed, I want the playbooks to automatically run on the machine, which would then ensure when the servers need to be patched. So basically identify if it is a dev machine, production machine, and then automatically update the jobs in Morpheus for this server, saying that since you're a dev machine, you need to go to this patch job because your Red Hat 7 or CentOS 7, it is supposed to be dev patch job for Red Hat 7. Okay. And then when the next schedule is there, it'll update the server with the patching that is required automatically. After the patching is done, I want the data of the patching of that server to be returned to produce a report. Okay, so I want a patching report that I want to run ad hoc, or I will schedule in Morpheus to run that as well. Okay, so in this, what I'm going to do is I have created a plugin called as a patching report plugin in Morpheus. It's a report plugin. I'm using Ansible integration, core Ansible with Morpheus. So not a server running Ansible. Ansible is installed on the Morpheus server itself. I have a vCenter cloud. So I've added vCenter as an integration to cloud to Morpheus. The user, I'm going to impersonate myself as a login user, which would go ahead and provision a CentOS machine. And then all this is automatically done behind the hood. So the user doesn't need to care about them. Okay, let's go ahead and start that. And once I have done the deployment, I'll explain how I've created the plugin, what Ansible playbooks are doing, and how can I create custom tables in Morpheus and use them for generating report from the Morpheus UI itself. Okay, so I have created a custom instance type called as CentOS, and I'm going to deploy this. So this will deploy a CentOS machine running version 7.5, and as part of my patching, it'll upgrade the operating system to 7.9. Okay, so I'll name the machine as Anish Test 02. I'll make that as a dev machine. Do some basic selections. Okay, I don't want backup of this machine now. And I'll deploy this machine. Okay, so the machine is now getting created in vCenter, and I can go ahead and see the progress of the machine in the history tab of the details page of the machine. I can see what Morpheus is doing. It's preparing image, it's configuring the instances, deploying in VMware. So this history will go on as it is. Okay, now let's see what we have to do. What will Morpheus do? So after the machine is provisioned, Morpheus is going to add that to a job, right? So in Morpheus, I have created a job which is supposed to do patching for me. If I go to jobs, I've created a job which this job is going to execute a task. So in a job in Morpheus can be used to execute a single task. A task is something that I'm having an Ansible playbook associated with. So I can add an Ansible integration in Morpheus and then associate a playbook to be run as a task. So I'm running my patching playbook, which is going to call my role for patching, and that patching playbook is a task for me in Morpheus. So what I did was I created a task called as this is for Red Hat 7 Linux, which will do a monthly patching for me, and it is for dev things. So if you see over here in the existing patch job, I am associating that to a task called as patching Linux Ansible. I'll show you what this task does, what is the playbook and the rules as well. I have created a schedule for myself, which is a monthly patching schedule. And the associated instances right now are these three instances. So what I ideally want is after the machine is provisioned, I should automatically see the Anish test 02 machine added over here in the job. Okay, let's look at the schedule, how I created the schedule. So if I go to automation, I created a scheduling, which is called the monthly scheduling. Okay, dev monthly scheduling. And if you see this, I am running this every month on the 29th at 23:45 hours. Okay, so at 11:45 p.m. on 29th of the month, this is the schedule. So I have associated this schedule with my job, which is going to execute that task, right? And the task is going to execute it on all the instances which are attached to the job, right? So how do the machine gets automatically attached to the job? So what I have is in automation, I have a task. It's a Python task. If you check this Python task, what I'm doing is I'm doing some logic in the Python task where I'm doing an API call back to Morpheus, identifying the type of the machine, which is the OS type of the machine. If I find the OS type, I would say that, okay, find the OS type, find the version of the OS, and then attach yourself to an appropriate job. So it'll do an API call back to Morpheus and attach that server back to it. So this task is associated to a workflow which I have called as a Linux workflow. Okay, it is of type provisioning. So I'm going to attach this to my layout. I have added that task over here in the provision phase. So what will happen is as the machine comes on network and the agent is installed, this task is automatically going to run. How it is going to run automatically, even though I've not selected during provisioning, is because in the library, this is the instance type that I have. This instance type has a layout, and in this layout, I have attached that workflow. So the task is going to automatically run. Okay, so once the task is run, we know that the machine will get attached to the job. And then on the 29th, the Ansible playbook would be executed on the machine, and then it'll generate a report. Okay, so my playbook, I'll show you what that playbook does. It'll create a report which would show the summary of the machine as how the machine is going to get provisioned. Okay, so if I come over here, this is my Morpheus server, which is running Ansible as well. So if I go to my temp directory, I will do a cat of an update. So if I say the update summary for this machine, okay. So Anish test 01 and say okay. So if I check this report, I'm getting an information as what distribution it is, what is the distribution 7.6 it was, and now after the update, it is going to be 7.9. Okay, I have some things that I've printed out over here based on services, what disk were mounted to the machine, what are the interfaces, was SC Linux okay, and all those things. So I've done some pre-checks, patched the system, and then I've done some post checks as well and printed out some data. Okay. Now, since this was a success, this was the previous run on the previous machine that was patched already. Since this was a success, I want this success information to be generated as my report. So when you run a playbook, you know if it is done or not, but you want to understand by pulling that as a report. So if you're running this for like thousands and thousands of servers or servers which are ad hoc going to run, you're managing the life cycle of your systems right over here. So this is what I want to do automatically. So what I have done is if you in the Morpheus database server, again, the Morpheus database server is Morpheus is a hosted solution. So the database is hosted on your environment and you have complete access to your database. So I have created a table over here called as patching. Okay, so if I describe patching, so all I've done is I've added like a field which is auto incremented for ID, server name, when the patching was done, so date created for that patching execution, when it was last updated, next run result, the OS, what OS it is, and the environment that it is. Okay, so I want this data to be written into the database once the patching is done by my Ansible playbook. The Ansible module I'm using is the community MySQL. If I show you the playbook, which is over here. Okay, so I'm calling the role called as patching. In the patching role, I'm calling this no reboot one. So I have to give credit who has written this. This one is adhoc. So I'm using his role, which he has kindly published in Galaxy. I'm reusing that to do some more work on what I wanted to accomplish. So in this one, I am going to, what I did was I added a block which then updates my MySQL database. Okay, so upon failure, I'm saying insert the data, saying that it has failed, right? So upon failure, say failed, upon success, say success, right? Now, upon if nothing was done, even then tell it was failure or success. So I've not done much over here, but I can see I have done some things. So I think I have to say nothing updated. And if this was success, it'll say a success. If this has failed, it'll say it has failed. Okay, so let's save this. So this is what it's doing and how it'll get the password for the database. This is the database. It'll going to update. This is the user. And I'm saying get the password from Morpheus itself. And I'll show you what is this actually. So Morpheus has an inbuilt key store called as cipher. I'm going to store that as a secret over there and I'm calling that secret from Morpheus to retrieve the value and then execute it. So it's a way where I don't have to publish my password or secrets in a way. Cool. Okay. So this would be updated and then everything would be available in the database. Now what I want is, since this was a custom thing that I did, I want Morpheus to generate a report for me with that data that is there in the database. So Morpheus has a plugin that you can do called as a report custom plugin. So I can create my own report templates, which are called report types in Morpheus. Okay, so this is my existing one that I have used for patching. So I'm creating a custom plugin, report plugin. In this report plugin, I've reused an example that is there on the Morpheus developer.morpheusdata.com. So from there, I'm reusing the code and creating my own plugin for patching reporting. So I've done some updates in the string values. What I am saying is I'm telling to do a DB connection back to Morpheus database, right? And the DB will get the data of the table, which is called as patching, and get all these tables, the columns data. And I've also said that I can, in the report, I can give a search field. So I can search by that data, or it'll just report that into an descending order, into an ascending order. Okay, if I have not provided a search, just put that into a search, into an order. So that's where the if condition is there. In the results, I'm taking the results, putting into total items, and I'm mapping that result into a block where I'm actually saying that, okay, just tell me how many total items you have found as part of my DB call, that is the row items. And then I'm going to result that row items into my view. So my view over here is saying that whatever I get, I'm going to put that into, these are the columns and the columns will map to the data. So the data map will be over there. Okay, all I'm doing is doing a Gradle shadow jar, which would then generate me the build. The build would be in build libraries. I can get the jar file over here. And all I'm doing is going to upload that jar file in Morpheus, which would then generate me a report type. So if you see over here under integrations, I have plugins over here. I've uploaded the plugin over here. Okay, once I've uploaded the plugin, you will see the plugin in my reports because it's a report plugin. One thing I forgot to show in my provider, I'm saying this is in the category of inventory. So I'm creating a new category called inventory. And in that inventory, I have the patching report information, right? So if I select over here, I have inventory as a report type, and you see this is my report template that I created. If you see this, I've already executed a couple of reports And if you see in the last reports, I have like two data. So these two were the ones that I've executed the playbooks on, and you see the results over here as well and what OS it is. I can get more data. This is just an example. So if I want to get environment or OS version, I can do lots of things, whatever I want. So I can create a report with the data that I want, which is stored into a database, and I can get all that however I want. So if I want, like how Ansible stores facts, Morpheus can store facts with its own variable, but I can use Ansible facts as well and inject the data into my Morpheus database. So you see how powerful you can have a system where you can do reporting and everything in one go. Right, okay, so let's see what's the status of the machine that we have provisioned. Right, so test 2 is provisioned, and if we look at the history, it should have added the server to the job. Okay, so this was my job that was executed, and you can see it did an API call to add it to a patching job, and the patching job should now have that instance added. So if I go next over here, yes, perfect. So I get the second machine over here as well. So let's say today is the 29th of the month, and I'm going to execute the patching playbook onto this machine. Now, historically, whenever I've executed that on the machine which is running 7.5 or something, it takes at least 10 to 12 minutes uh, for the patching to complete. So what I'll do is I will run the patching, and then I'll show you how Morpheus can integrate with Ansible core as well in the meantime. So instead of running the job, which would run the job on all the machines, I don't want to run the job on all the machines. I want to run thinking like, okay, this is going to run on this machine today, which is the 29th. So I'm just executing the Ansible playbook over here, right? So if I'm installing Ansible on Morpheus, I don't have to manage the inventory of Ansible in Morpheus because Morpheus will automatically manage that for me. How it does that? Morpheus has an integration, a native integration with Ansible core. All I'm saying is to Morpheus, add an integration. And over here, I'm saying that this is my Git URL, or I have a Bitbucket, or I have a Azure DevOps. I can use any one of them. I can use like token or anything. So Git token, I can use Azure DevOps token. I can authenticate via SSH keys, so I can add my SSH keys in Morpheus and then have the SSH public key in my uh, SCM, and then from there I can say fetch my details. So what I've done is I have a public uh, repo. So I'm doing, this is my public repo where I'm getting all the information from, so you can feel free to use it. In this public repo, I'm saying that these are my playbooks parts. So all my playbooks are kept in the root directory of my repo. All the roles are in slash roles, group vars in group vars, and hosts are under host vars are under slash host. Okay. If you want Morpheus to use Ansible Galaxy, do that. But what I've done is I've installed that Galaxy collection on the app server itself. So on the app server, so this is my app server. On the app server, if you see, so Morpheus is going to execute uh, the Ansible playbook by a user called Morpheus local user, Morpheus app, and Morpheus local as a group. So this is the Morpheus local user's home directory. Inside there, the Ansible would be there. And over here, all the collections would be installed. So if I see the collections, I have my community MySQL collection over here. So Morpheus has complete access to the collection, and that's how it executes a playbook and understands how to do that. Right. Okay. Um, so that's the only thing you have to do. You don't have to manage anything. Uh, Even though I've executed the playbook, we will see the live output of the playbook as well. What I also wanted to show you is I'm going to use agent command bus. So I'm telling Morpheus that run that via the command bus. Okay, I don't know if I've unchecked it, but let's have a look at the ongoing playbook status. So I'm on 02. See, it's struggling with resources because it is doing its update. So it's 100% used. Okay, yep. So it is doing the executions. You see, I have loads and loads of lines. over here for the output. So if I can also check the live output over here in the app server. Okay, so that's the command to check the live logs. So it should be coming up soon. I think it is doing the kernel update, so it'll take some time. As I said, it takes usually like 10 to 15 minutes for the updates. If you check the previous one, this one, okay, it has a couple of failures, but no, sorry, this one has completed properly. So this one was executed, and if you see over here, it took a total of 6 minutes 44 seconds. So that's what we're expecting for that one as well. And I can see the whole output over here. Right, so this lives into the history of the machine. So if I'm using core Ansible, and if I want to see after like 1 week what happened when I did the first playbook run over there, or what was the output of my patching, I want to see that on the UI as well for some services which I'm not recording into the database, but I want to see that output over here. So now you can come and see that value over here as well. And as part of that playbook, it is going to execute an insert into the DB, which is a failure or a success or nothing to update any one of them. And my report is now I can fetch the report however I want. Okay, let's see. It should be okay. Right, so blah blah blah. Okay, so execution results completed. Let's have a look. What was the result? I don't think it has completed so far, but it's still ongoing. Let's have a look at the server and see if no, it's still ongoing. Okay, so it's 3471 rows so far. Okay, okay, so almost there. So what if we recap over here? What we did was we created our own patching mechanism using Ansible core. So I can now have my own playbooks do my patching for me. But at the other side, I'm also going to have that as a report generated for me. So all the components which were involved in this one is the patching plugin, uh, my Ansible core integration, recent integration that is already there with Morpheus, and I've created my own library item which is doing all these jobs for me. Okay, let's have a look. I think it's almost done. It's just getting all the post patching system data. So ideally it should be done soon. Again, the plugin where you can get right now, I will upload that plugin to our Morpheus examples. So we have some Morpheus automation examples over here where I'll upload the plugin over here. Where is the developer site? So this is the Morpheus developer site where if you go over here, you will see some existing custom plugins for the reports. If you see over here, click on full example. This is explained how the report works. This is an example report plugin, so you can use this one as well and update how you want. So this one is actually doing, let me see what this one is made for. Okay, so a sample report that lists all instances as well as their current status. So you get report which is doing some information from an existing table of Morpheus called as instance, and then it is getting data of the name of the instance, ID, and the status of the instance. That's all. So either you can search by the server name and get the data, or you can do with that as an ascending order. Right. Okay. So this is the data. What we had was the automation examples, which is also quite good. If you want to have a check on the play that I've done, so I did that as a Ansible playbook. Again, it's over here. Morpheus Ansible 2. It's open public, so feel free to use it and fork it if you want to. I have some examples which are there for Morpheus as well. This is where the patching Linux was there. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at the status of this one. Yeah, looks like it is completed. Okay, so let's have a look at the end status. So it says 12 changed, 32 okay, and that's fine. So this was a success. So there was no failures. Now what we'll do is we'll go and run the report. So earlier report you saw we had two servers in there. Now I'm expecting the third server as well. So if I change the inventory over here, click on the report, and clicked on the report because just to show you that what was the previous results. The previous run was having two servers. If we run it now, we should see the third server as well. Okay, so if I say run now, this report, I'm just going to run for all data. Okay, so it's almost done, yeah, already. So if I open up the report, yep, so we see the server that we just created as well. Okay, so that accomplished this use case. Hope it was helpful. Thank you.